My dear brothers and sisters, Bishop Angel Floro followed Christ. He followed in the footsteps of Christ, and indeed, he thought, he spoke, and he acted in persona Christi Capitis. And indeed, he was Alte Christus. Because of that, what we expect to see in Christ is what we expected to see in him. And indeed, as far as he is concerned, Bishop Angel Floro reflected Christ in his life. Some 83 years ago, in 1940, in Spain somewhere, Bishop Angel Floro stood up. He entered into the synagogue of this world. He stood up and he was given a scroll. And he read very well. And that scroll was his own life. He read very well by word of mouth. He read very well by his way of life. His charitable works when dealing with his clergy. He read from that scroll very well for the past 83 years. And today, he has rolled up the scroll. Rolling up the scroll, he sat down in Gokwe General Hospital last Monday, was it? Around 6 p.m. Bishop Angel Floro, who stood up in 1940 to read, and read very well, sat down in Gokwe General Hospital. Here he is now, sitting in our midst, and all our eyes are fixed on him because he read very well. His life represented gracious words. His life represented gentleness. His life represented an exceptional presence. His life represented love. His life represented peace. His life represented joy. A man of unfading smile, Bishop Angel Floro was. A natural smile which was never disturbed by anything. Even after receiving a number of bypasses, heart bypasses, the smile remained. After having that painful operation recently, the smile remained. Even when he was fatigued, the smile remained. Bishop Angel Floro came and smiled and went. Our eyes are fixed on him. Eyes from Harare right now are fixed on him. Eyes from Motare fixed on him. From Bulawayo, fixed on him. From Hwange, fixed on him. From Maswingo, fixed on him. From Chinoi, fixed on him. From Gokwe, fixed on him. all eyes are fixed on him. Of young people, the youth, young adults, women of the church, men of the church, old gokos and sekurus, and even those who do not go to church. All eyes are fixed on him right now. Basanda sianda pizza. Ndomtauro watakafanira kugamuchira nasi. He has fought a good fight, running the race to the finish. He kept the faith. He died a man of faith. My dear brothers and sisters, looking at the life of Christ himself in relation to the life of a bishop, we realize, perhaps for it to be easy, let us look at the way the Gospels present the person of Christ. The Jesus of the Gospel of Mark, as we find it in the very first verse of that Gospel, is the Lion of Judah, who approaches from the wilderness. He comes as a true shepherd, a pastor to his people, to defend them, to stand by them, to support them, to be with them even in trying times. He is among them as a king, as a shepherd, as a pastor. This is what Jesus was to his church. This is what Jesus is to his church. And this reveals in a special way the governing aspect of the church, the governing dimension of the church, to protect his people against evil forces. And this is what Bishop Angel Floro was to all of us. Our protector, our father, our pastor, our shepherd. He was our pillar of strength. And in that way, he comes across as a true shepherd of his flock. When we look at the Jesus of the Gospel of Matthew, we realize that he was a preacher through and through. Wherever he found people, he looked for an opportunity to preach, to talk to them, to console them, to strengthen them, and even to rebuke them. This is what Jesus was to his followers. This is what Jesus is to his church. A preacher, the preacher par excellence. And this is what Bishop Angel Floro was. And this reveals the teaching dimension of the church. And Bishop Angel Floro, by his way of life, underlined this dimension of the church, the teaching dimension of the church. He was a teacher who went out, reaching out to all God's people, the rich and the poor alike, saints and sinners alike. He reached out to everybody. And in that way, he came across as a true teacher, preacher, a prophet. And then when we look at the Jesus of the Gospel of Luke, we realize that even the symbol of the Gospel, by the way, the symbol of the Gospel of Mark is the face of a lion. The symbol of the Gospel of Matthew is the face of a human being to symbolize wisdom. The human being is supposed to be the wisest of God's creatures here on earth. And then the symbol of the Gospel of Luke is an ox, the face of an ox, to symbolize sacrifices. That Gospel talks so much about sacrifices. And the life of sacrifice, which Jesus himself lived, revealed him as a true priest. A priest is that person who dies to himself. A priest is that person who sacrifices himself for the sake of his brothers and sisters. And Jesus was a true priest who immersed his life, himself, in the lives of his people. He was that pastor who heard the smell of the sheep. He approached and reached out even to the marginalized, to the women, to children, to the poor, to everyone. He was an outgoing person, and in that way revealing that aspect, the sanctifying aspect of the church. And indeed, this is what Bishop Angel Floro was to his flock, reaching out and at all times trying to bring the best out of everyone, like Christ himself, who brought the best out of Peter, who says of himself, I'm a man of unclean lips, who brought the best out of Matthew, a tax gatherer who was a public sinner, who brought the best out of Mary Magdalene, who was known in that whole town. Jesus brought the best out of everybody. And this is what Bishop Angel Floro tried in his own way to do to all of us.
Inoera Angelo Ducenes que la mar. Muzita la baba. Nere manakoma. Nera muyamutsene. Ndinokufunga idzira kuti unatswe nokuchengetwa naMwari kunhuhwirira uku ngakudzinge vavengi vose nemweya yakaipa. Muzita raBaba nere Mwanakomana nera Mweya Mutsvene.